Hello, can you guys tap the live and repost? Thank you. I'm sorry I had to do that again. I'm gonna try everything I can not to get restricted. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. We're gonna continue. Yeah, come up here. Or yeah, what do you have to say? Say it first in the chat and I'll let you come up here and explain it. Sometimes you don't know what people are gonna say. And the book says, be friendly to all, but not familiar to all. Because as the scripture says, it says, as mentioned in scripture, there are still wolves in sheep's clothing. So you can't be familiar with all, but be friendly to all. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Why is my jaw so clean? Are you talking to... I don't know, because my mom ran my head through a wall enough times and now I look like ugly or handsome Squidward. I don't fucking know. Bow, bow, bow. Did you ever see that episode of SpongeBob? Mm. So, again, to that last comment, to bridge, I used to be very vain. Now I don't even give a damn. Like, I just don't care. You know? Like, you see my hairline? Like, I just don't care. Yes, they did. They closed it. And that's the thing. So this is where I'm kind of like not taking my own advice, is being friendly to all. You still have to ask questions and all these things. And when you have to understand that the powers that be, not everybody is going to be able in their current form or their present way of thinking to be able to hear these words. That's what this even book was just saying. And that, you know, but that just doesn't mean that they'll never be able to hear it. It's just their present mind right now, the way they're working through their mind. So it doesn't mean that they're, you know, so sometimes it's just, you have to like still ask questions, not judge, but ask questions. What did Joe do? He was a truth seeker and he was pioneering just information and making it available that just people didn't have. He was digging out and seeking out the truth, hidden secrets. Right now, his death is a hidden secret. So it just seems like it's hypocritical to be a truth seer, but not look at that truth and not look for that truth. To me, it's just like, it makes so much sense. what sucks though about that, so many people are spreading misinformation and conspiracies. How do I know this? Because most of the posts about myself are not true. So if I'm gonna look into like, conspiracies, you're gonna not find any like, not everything you see there is gonna be truth. How are you gonna know what's true and what's not? So you also have to investigate. I've kind of like screwed up on the process because like, do we have like a confirmed, like, is it true that she put him in a hospital? Is that part true? Is that confirmed anywhere? Because like the internet doesn't show that. Maybe somebody like close has confirmed it, but I haven't. I have to clarify this. I haven't truly confirmed it, and so the reason why I necessarily can't be sued for anything, I never said the person's name. I said Joe's girlfriend. How do you know he didn't have a freaking affair? So that's how I'm good. I never said a name. That's what's crazy. The investigation's over. If you don't believe me, start asking some questions because everything is weird, and I'm going to show you now. Investigation be over. Yes, the GBI was involved in investigating the death of influencer Joe Felz, but they have officially closed their inquiry because it's a suicide. The DOJ doesn't further investigate things that are not crimes once they're ruled out to not be crimes. So the woman, what she said, because you're right, this just means her talking about it. She said she couldn't talk until the investigation was over because she was bound to secrecy because of the investigation. Well, guess what? There's no crime to be investigated, so it's not like you can't say shit. If he did it to himself or whatever, you can talk. You just won't. And so that's the thing. He was about delivering truth. You're keeping the truth. And if you didn't want all these conspiracies that other people are drawing, you would give information, but you're withholding that because you want conspiracies to be drawn. You're dragging this out. The only way to kill it is actually tell the truth, and you're preventing that from being said. You just won't say it. So you're allowing conspiracy to be spread. So you're part of the misinformation. Like he literally said, I wouldn't do this to myself. It's done. There's still some information that's not being said. You have it and you won't say it. So yeah. Can y'all share this out? And like, can anyone else that has talked in the comments that agrees come up here and like say your thing? You know, we have to work together and investigate and do these things. That's kind of like one of the missions that of Joe Felz community. How could you be a community of truth seekers and not know what happened to the person who pioneered and started the community? There's still information you don't know. The investigation's over. You should be asking for it. If you're asking for books that he shared, I think you've lost sight of what truly matters in this world. Yeah, she has his physical books. Why isn't she scanning them and continuing his mission? I'm not trying to instill anything in anybody, but these are the questions you need to ask. If she was truly carrying his torch and going to carry on his mission, where are the books? Why are they all links to archive.org? Those aren't scans of his original books. You're being lazy. And we're not about lazy. I'm showing you I'm about to go abroad across the world to go find and go put myself in danger to go. do things. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get nerfed again. I'm gonna go. Not now. It's not on the side. Nothing's dangerous. I love TikTok Shop. TikTok Shop is great. I love it. Everybody use it. Buy some money. Get taxed by TikTok. Send gifts and get taxed by TikTok. TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. You know. So yes, but I will be going and searching for more information and just trying to pioneer, not pioneer, trying to continue the work that Joe pioneered. Because in a commemoration of him, it will always be Joe Felz Library. He started the work. What kind of person would I look like if I was just like, hey, you know, and be a villain? You know what I'm saying? I can't. I would never. This is just, I'm on a different path, and trying to explain it. To those who don't understand, is probably not the best use of my energy, but I still want to try because I still feel that there's efforts that can still be made. Just like this book wouldn't have been happened, this book wouldn't have been made without the collaborated effort. It says this in the introduction. This book of all this information, of this important lost information, would not have happened if it wasn't a collaborated effort between friends and like the workings of the world and everything are happening at the right time. So we have to keep doing that. It's not because it was a miracle for this information to be here. It's because people put in the work and did the right thing and just saw the same vision and worked together. And so Joe, I feel like he was doing a lot of it by himself and working in secrecy with others. But I feel like as the more people involved that want to be involved, that want to be familiars, you can't, like it says, you can't be familiar with all but friendly to all, but you can still be familiar with some. So I don't want to just make it do it by myself. I need bodyguards. I need help. I need people that are gonna go, that are just as passionate about finding the truth and getting a copy of like books. Like there's a book of the Bible that is no longer known to an existence, but there's no proof of its extinguishment, and it's the Book of Wars of Yahweh. And I guess that's where people get the name Yahweh. But this book of the Bible is just untraceable. So I like a challenge, and so I want to trace it. I want to find it and look back at the last, and how we do this is we look at where they were first created, where they were printed, and their possible locations of what happened, which ones were burned, which ones weren't, how it got removed, what's the last known location of the last physical copy. And now we know what we know. We use mathematics to find out what we don't know. I thank you, Kevin. Kevin, will you come up here? I don't think I've introduced myself to you. Can you come up? Kevin, will you request up? Or I'll send you a request. Please do us this service. We need people, we need community people organizing. If you agree, just instead of typing it down, speak it on a vocal resonance to where it's in the ether, to where it's been heard and it's not just written down. Speak it out. And where it's actually heard and understood and perceived. If you truly believe in the mission, someone come up here and say you believe in the mission. That would help a lot. And I just don't see anybody taking the courage to do that, just to even say hi. But that's okay. I also still know that what I'm doing is not everybody's like path, but still it's not hard to connect and say hi. Right, Maverick. Numb fingers. I commend you for your courage.
Hey Dylan, what's up?
Hey, buddy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm trying like to get everything you said into my head and like everything that the people are saying. But like, yeah, look, I believe you and like it's possible to do what you're trying to do. But being in the subjects for like 17 years, I also know with how the world is being run, like right now, yeah. that it is going to be almost impossible. Like the things like
Keyword almost. That's where
yeah, yeah,
that's where I find
I know, but
possible.
hang on. Let
You
me
need to take
explain
I'm
because like
possible and separate it. Or impossible,
I
separate it. It's I'm possible. Power is
listen.
within me.
I know, but like what you are actually like what you're talking about is like a
What you're talking about is
revolution.
doubt, and I can't hear doubt. I just can't hear doubt. I said if you believe in the
No,
mission.
no, no, no,
So
no,
if you
no.
doubt it,
I'm
you have doubt, you're having questions. And so when I
no, no,
read the
no.
book, it tells you how you free yourself of this world is to get rid of four things:
Look.
hope,
For me
doubt.
myself, I don't have doubt, but li listen, hear me out. Like what you are trying to do, like affects the entire world. Like like the things that Joe went after, yeah, is like the elites, like those with money, like every like the Rothschilds, like those are the people that we are trying to oppose. So
I know
you
the
just have
rock
to be.
blacks. Okay.
I know, but you
So
know what
in
I'm
your
trying to say?
15 years of experience, have you met any of a Roth?
No.
Okay, so I might have a little bit more experience. Do you want to see?
No. I believe you, but I'm just trying to say like to everybody, like we can do this. It's what it's like. Look, to put it in like because English is not my native language, yeah. So when I have a like a talking chat, like I need to have time to think, like for my brain, so I can put my. But like
You're plugging in languages.
what
That's
you
what
yeah
I'm doing. I'm
what you're
taking
talking
English.
about,
I'm taking
I
a
know.
language that's not understood, just the same as you are. I take a language that's not understood that I understand, and I use English to communicate it to you. And so you're doing the same thing right now. So you should understand. We're not incapable. I mean, things can be hard and confusing, but you have to get rid of doubt. If you're going to question when you learn about magnetism and the actual that building that the mathematics is the building block to all science, if you question that, that's it's going to keep you bound.
But we're not, but listen, I'm not even like, I'm not questioning that. Like, I'm
Okay,
not
so with
saying
mathematics,
anything
I'd like
that,
what's understood doesn't need to be explained. You obviously don't understand, so I need to explain it. So let me explain it. So with mathematics, like algebra is a part of mathematics. This is the process of working backwards. We use algebra to find out what we don't know. That's clairvoyancy.
hmm okay.
Okay. So you use the numbers of this language that I'm trying to tell you, and you use it to work backwards to find out what you don't know. So if we take what we do know, the variables of what we know, and we try to solve it and find x, that is how we'll take all the numbers we don't have and we'll find x. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. What's your next
But
question?
look, I'm not good. Look, Maverick, she asked me if I wanted to come here, and I said in advance, like, if I go like on audio talking, like, it's gonna be hard for me, and I can't explain my thing, like, if I get interrupted because I have autism, and
So
every
you're
time, like,
working on
I shut
something
down.
else. So what about
Yeah,
the
I no, no,
mission?
but
What about the
but look,
mission or what about has been
but
said is
no, no.
confusing. Don't look at
Wanted to
yourself.
come. No. I wanted to come in and I wanted to like tell one certain point, but like in the first minute, I couldn't even tell my point anymore. And now we're 10 minutes later and we're off on another subject.
Because
So I'm just
like I
gonna type
said,
it. I'm just gonna type it. It's no good for
go
me
ahead.
explaining
No,
it. I'm
that's
sorry.
fine. And
No. It's
if
cool. It's
you
cool.
have to be receiving of the information. If you're gonna just not hear what I say, that's the problem. I'm giving you the information like Jesus gave you the information, but you aren't taking it in. You need to take it in a certain way. That's the problem.
Dylan, I've been listening to your live
Okay.
for like an hour. I
Okay.
have been
So
typing.
there is no, so I've already said it. There's no need to go back and forth. Your response, I just don't need it. I'm on a mission. I said, come up here if you agree with the mission. You were just, yeah, I agree with it, but, and then gave me a list of reasons of X, Y, and Z of why it doesn't work for you because of your experience and da 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 da. And I'm trying to tell you, your experience is what has brainwashed you. You need to stop thinking about your experience and looking inward to look at the outside. You look at inward when you're trying to fix what's wrong with you, not take what's wrong with you and not change anything, and look at your outward perspective of the world and think that everything about the world and its outward perspective, your view of it, is wrong. No, you have to fix what's wrong with you. Then that's why you can't judge, because our judgments are inaccurate. So if you agree with the mission and if you understand what we're talking about and you haven't missed a step and you're like ready, like you're with us and there is no but, then come up. Like that's what I said in the first place. Hey, buddy. Hey, numbers.
Sorry, I was just in the middle of drinking, so I wasn't quite ready.
No, that's great. No, you're fine. I'm kind of, not the best to be presented on camera in my current state anyway, but you're good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. What do you think about, what do you know? So let's start there. How did you find this? Start from there.
Well, it depends. What do you want to know?
How did you find out about us? The beginning, and then we'll work off of that.
Well, I saw Joe Felz on the news that he was dead. He was researching all kinds of stuff, and he was an electrician. I'm also an electrician, and yeah, I've been speaking with a group of people that actually know a bunch of stuff that most people do not know. And
Do you plan on sharing that information at any point?
I mean, yeah, if you ask, I'll share it.
No, I just asked.
Okay. It's a huge thing. So what do you want to know?
The beginning, and we'll start it off the foundation. So tell us the foundation, what brought you to your realization, your epiphany, or whatever it is. Because electricity is, it's what is the powerhouse of what actually makes physical 3D manifestation move. It's the energy. So
Well, something moves everything. If you take away space right now, what do you see? Like space. Like when they talk about in science, they say space and time. If you take away space, what do you see?
you actually can't take away space. There is no taking away space. The celestial embodiment.
If you just imagine
So what do you see when you take away space?
nothing. So what are you?
Because okay, what does nothing
If
look
you,
like to you? What does nothing look like to you?
it's like our awareness. It's
No, that's not nothing. That's not nothing. That's something. What does
it's
nothing look like to you? Can you
I
perceive
am
what
what
nothing
remains.
is?
I am what remains. That's my answer.
No, that's something. If there's nothing, there's nothing. There's not black. There's not nothing.
It's
There's nothing.
kind of both.
We can't perceive nothing.
It's nothing and something at the same time.
You can't perceive what nothing is because when you look at nothing, you see black. Black is still something. That's the absence of color, absence of light.
Absence of light. That's correct.
But black in itself is still something.
It's just the absence of light.
No, it absorbs light.
I mean, yeah, you could
So
also
it's
say that.
something. So you can't actually, That's the thing. You have to actually expand your mind. So we think we know these things, but if you know mathematics, you know nothing is possible. Like like the actual the word nothing of just nothing. That's actually impossible because mathematics exists. If we didn't have numbers, then nothing would be perceivable. But since it is, we just can't. There's too many codes, so there will always be something. When you think about nothing, you're thinking thought. So there's something there. There's an action. It's a process. There's movement. There's energy. So you can't perceive what nothing is. You can't experience what nothing is.
Of course, but it's the simplest explanation for someone like in the chat, for the people listening. If they were to imagine it in their mind, to see it, like the person before, he wasn't quite
So if
grasping.
there was absence of light still means there's an ether for light that could be passed through. Nothing means there's no ether, there's no medium, there's no space, like there's no room for even thought.
I mean, thoughts come from our environment. We can't think outside of our environment.
No, you can. This book tells you you can. So I would invite you to go to this website and read the book that we're talking about. I've been live for like the past couple hours reading it. I was live yesterday for a couple hours reading it, and there's a lot of people who are in the comments who see, yes, you can.
Oh.
You're able to think outside of this box that you're told that you're constrained in. So that's what I'm trying to help others wake up, because it's just not, this is as common as knowledge as you guys think that you're awake, you're not awake. And I'm trying to tell you how, show you, and you can see it for yourself. Okay, there is some things that I haven't realized. You need to realize them.
When you go to sleep, something leaves you.
Okay.
So what is that thing?
Now you're trying to be philosophical without understanding. You're never going to find the actual truth if that's what if the approach you take. You need to do that. Instead of asking me this and have a pre-prepared philosophical response, what you need to do is use mathematics and to find X, the variable that you don't know, and tell it to yourself, and then spread it to others, and not ask it in a form of a question. Does that make sense?
So how do you want me to
explain what you know to be true?
Okay.
If that's what you really want to do, if you want to come up here and you want to tell me what I know is different and that you disagree, I'll just fact check everything with mathematics in real time.
Okay.
So if that's the approach you want to take, you could not be combative and you could just say, okay, tell me more. Or you could be like, okay, what do you not know? Ask me what I don't know. I mean, there's other ways to take this. Instead of trying to test my knowledge, you could ask me.
You're actually correct. I am testing you.
I know.
Because
I have full control of myself. You can't control me.
Okay.
That's how
Three
you
things.
When you read out of the Bible and it says, ye do this or that, and then you say it in a great voice, no, he's like, ye can stand up, stand up. Like, that's how he was saying it, because to him, it's like what's understood doesn't need to be explained, but it needs to be obviously explained. So this is like, I totally understand, and that's how the temple is within you. I've been trying to tell you that you have control of everything. But if you can't control yourself, you have control of nothing.
Well, if you say you have control of everything, that means you can just manifest a penny in front of me.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I have control over myself. I didn't say I didn't have control over you and my surroundings. I have control over myself. I'm ready for the next step, but you could ask me instead of like tell me what you think you know about me.
Okay. I will do that.
Thank you. I'm gonna follow you.
I will follow you back. Well, the first thing is I will disclose what Nikola Tesla discovered.
Absolutely.
So, when Nikola Tesla looked at the pyramids, he was obsessed with it. And people mistake his 369 for something it isn't. And like if you search for it online, you'll see it was simply vortex math, blah blah blah. He had OCD and whatever. It's not true. The pyramid has a ninth side. If like the pyramid has 8 sides, truly, but when the sun rises in a certain way, it casts a shadow, which is the ninth side. And if you split it from the middle with that shadow, one is 90 degrees corner, like from the bottom of the pyramid to the side and to the top. The top is 30 degrees and the bottom outer side is 60 degrees. So he realized, okay, this is precise geometry. Now something else to add on to it. The micro tubules in our brain, in everyone's brain, it comes in 9 groups of 3. So all of these numbers that we see in the Great Pyramid of Giza, they are related to us. There are 3 pyramids, 3 crosses. You've all seen this. You've all heard this.
Did you notice the bases, the shapes of the pyramids that are actually in Egypt?
Can you repeat that?
Do you notice the shapes of the bases of the pyramids in Egypt? Do you notice the shape?
The shape of the base, yeah?
What's the shape?
I don't know how to say this in English, but...
Square?
No, it has like indents, like...
No. So exactly. So we have square base pyramids and we have triangular base pyramids. Pythagoras was known for triangles. And so Pythagoras is explained in this book. Pythagoras was, a triangle is like one of the strongest geometrical shapes known to us. A triangle is like the strongest shape known to man. And so Pythagoras had pioneered so much of the mathematics because he was able to perceive math and the numbers the way I'm explaining it to you. He was able to see it and create a whole new language with the numbers that were already given them. And then he created his own symbols and was able to like show you, okay, this is what this symbol means and this is what so I can actually show you what the language is telling me.
Yeah. I mean, everything is geometry, even the length of wire on all of Tesla's work.
Sacred geometry, yes, it's all numbers. All these are numbers. Humans created a way that we could perceive numbers and teach it to each other with another written down language. The language that's actually used to make this isn't written down. It's not the numbers. There's a book in the Bible called Numbers, but numbers don't look like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 0. They look like just anything. They could look like anything, be anything, and also there's some numbers you can't see at all, and that's the magnetism.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of codes in the Bible that people miss.
Maverick wants to come up. Oh, you have a story you want to share now, like a book? Like a book? Let me grab my thingy. Where it is? Okay, it sounds like you have an epiphany, so come on up here.
Hey.
Hey, boo.
So this relates to some of the stuff you were talking about earlier when we talked about the intangible and the things you can't see and touch. And somebody had sent this to me, and it was kind of like one of those aha moments. And something you said triggered my memory to go find this story.
Epiphany,
Um,
those aha moments.
yeah.
It's a breakthrough. Think of
So
it as a breakthrough. Go ahead. Yes.
this was God versus science, and it talks about Einstein and an atheist professor of philosophy that he had, and a presentation that he was being given, and food for thought on that idea of the intangible. It says, let me explain the problem science has with religion. The atheist professor of philosophy pauses before his class and then asks one of his new students to stand. Yes, sir, the student says. So you believe in God? Absolutely. Is God good? Sure, God is good. Is God all powerful? Can God do anything? Yes. Are you good or evil? Well, the Bible says I'm evil. The professor grins knowingly. Aha, the Bible, he considers for a moment. Here's one for you. Let's say there's a sick person over there and you can cure him. You can do it. Would you help him? Would you try? Yes, sir, I would. So you're good. I wouldn't say that. But why not say that? You'd help a sick man, a maimed person if you could. Most of us would if we could, but God doesn't. The student does not answer, so the professor continues. He doesn't, does he? My brother was a Christian who died of cancer, even though he prayed to Jesus to heal him. How is this Jesus good? Can you answer that one? The student remains silent. No, you can't, can you? The professor says. He takes a sip of water from a glass on his desk to give the student time to relax. Let's start again, young fella. Is God good? Yes, the student says. Is Satan good? The student doesn't hesitate on this one. No. Then where does Satan come from? The student falters. From God. That's right. God made Satan, didn't he? Tell me, son, is there evil in this world? Yes, sir. Evil is everywhere, isn't it? And God did make everything, correct? Yes. So who created evil? The professor continues. If God created everything, then God created evil, since evil exists, and according to the principle that our works define who we are, then God is evil. Again, the student has no answer. Is there sickness, immorality, hatred, ugliness, all these terrible things? Do they exist in this world? The student squirms on his feet. Yes. So who created them? The student does not answer this again, so the professor repeats his question. Who created them? There is still no answer. Suddenly, the lecturer breaks away to pace in front of the classroom. The class is mesmerized. Tell me, he continues on to another student, do you believe in Jesus Christ, son? The student's voice betrays him and cracks. Yes, professor, I do. The old man stops pacing. Science says you have 5 senses you use to identify and observe the world around you. Have you ever seen Jesus? No, sir, I've never seen him. Then tell us if you've ever heard Jesus. No, sir, I have not. Have you felt your Jesus, tasted your Jesus, or smelt your Jesus? Have you ever had any sensory perception of Jesus Christ or God for that matter? No, sir, I'm afraid I haven't. Yet you still believe in him? Yes, according to the rules of empirical, testable, demonstratable protocol, science says your God doesn't exist. But what do you say to that, son? Nothing, the student replies. I only have my faith. Yes, faith, the professor repeats. And that is the problem science has with God. There is no evidence, only faith. The student stands quietly for a moment before asking a question of his own. Professor, is there such a thing as heat? Yes. And there is such a thing as cold? Yes, son, there is cold too. No, sir, there isn't. The professor turns to face the student, obviously interested. The room suddenly becomes very quiet, and the student begins to explain. You can have lots of heat, even more heat, superheat, mega heat, unlimited heat, white heat, a little heat, or no heat. But we don't have anything called cold. You can hit down to 458 degrees below zero, which is no heat, but we can't go any further after that. There is no such thing as cold. Otherwise, we would be able to go colder than the lowest negative 458 degrees. Every body or object is susceptible to study when it has or transmits energy. And heat is what makes a body or matter have an
So, Can we pause real fast? Because we're
Yeah.
moving on from one point to another as we go further. And one thing it says, it was like God created evil, so does that make God good or evil? And one thing that the professor doesn't ask, why did God do that? And it didn't. And it's a guided conversation. There's a problem here because why did God create evil?
See, I don't think that God created evil. I
So
think
you
that is a
have to be
problem of
tested,
man.
don't you? Don't you? Isn't your faith supposed to be tested?
True.
Is it? Isn't this not the only of what we're being told in the Bible and magnetism and mathematics is true and to be real? How do we know? Okay, so what would you do if you were to create a website and you were to appoint these people that you created their accounts and everything, but you just need to test them. You'd give them free will and see what they would do with that. So you'd have to have evil for
Right.
them
It would
to turn to see if they would actually accept the evil.
judge
So
a character and a
that's a whole
virtue.
part of
Yes,
that
absolutely.
conversation that wasn't even had. So he was trying to make it. You have to understand why evil's created, and that wasn't even asked.
No, I agree with that. And perception of virtue. But again, that's where humanity also comes into play, is your choices and your perception of the world around you.
That's why
And
even a
that,
professor learned from a school. They're indoctrinated. So your professor
yep.
doesn't mean they're all. So it takes us in our discernment to learn these things. And thank you, Maverick, for being such a great example of this and being so accepting of my response to it. Thank you. But go ahead, finish what you're saying. Finish reading
All right.
if you want to.
There is no such thing as cold, otherwise we would be able to go colder than the lowest negative 458 degrees. For every body or object is susceptible to study when it has or transmits energy, and heat is what a body makes, and heat is what makes a body or matter have or transmit energy. Absolute zero, or negative 458 degrees, is the total absence of heat. You see, sir, cold is only a word we use to describe the absence of heat. You cannot measure cold. Heat we can measure in thermal units because heat is energy. Cold is not the opposite of heat, sir, just the absence of it. Silence across the room. A pen drops somewhere in the classroom, sounding like a hammer. What about darkness, Professor? Is there such a thing as darkness? Yes, the professor replies without hesitation. What is night if it isn't darkness? You're wrong again, sir. Darkness is not something, it is the absence of something. You can have low light, normal light, bright light, flashing light, but you have no light constantly. You have
But for there
nothing.
to be darkness at all, there has to be an ether that light could shine through if there's the absence of it.
Say that again?
There's still something there. There is still something there in the absence. When you think that there's nothing, if there is even black, that means that there's absence of light, meaning that there's light that could be had in this space. That means this space of blackness is still something.
Right. And he says the meaning we use to define the word, in reality,
The
darkness
ether.
isn't. If it were, you would be able to make the darkness darker, wouldn't you? The professor begins to smile at the student in front of him. This will be a good semester. So what point are you making, young man? Yes, Professor, my point is your philosophical premise is flawed to start with, and so your conclusion must also be flawed. The professor cannot hide his surprise this time. Flawed? Can you explain how? You are working on the premise of duality, the student explains. You argue there is life, and then there's death, a good God and a bad God. You are viewing the concept of God as something infinite, something we can measure. Sir, science can't even explain a thought. It uses electricity and magnetism, but has never seen, much less fully understood, either one.
I have another 15-second truth bomb to blow your minds. So, if you think space is nothing, and we've just got this far, and you realize that even when blackness, it is still something because there's space within that to hold that blackness. Because blackness is the absence of something. In that absence, you could in that space produce. If there's light, if there's blackness, there can be light. So what is space? Is space a medium? Because since there's blackness all throughout space, it's still something. Just because you think there's nothing there and you travel on infinity doesn't mean you're traveling on a nothing. It's an ether. It's something. Space is a medium. It's
I agree with that.
something.
It's a fluid, the ether.
Yeah, the ether. It's something. It's ether, and the ether, just because it has name and definition, it's something.
Does anyone here know how free energy works? Like, has anyone here built a device that can harness this
Yeah, the
free energy field?
The Merkaba, like a sounding, you take a sounding bowl, you put water in it, and you do this, and you see the resonance of Merkaba. If you had the physical manifestation, like the guy came up here earlier, he had a Merkaba, an actual physical, like bar, it was bars, but it was the shape of a Merkaba. So if you were to place that Merkaba on a pendulum inside that sounding bowl, and it would able to spin with the resonance of the spiritual embodiment of Merkaba, and it works in unison, that is how you can access power. Through just movement and friction and the resonance of sound and all that combined, that's magnetism, and that is magic. So there you have it.
No, absolutely. Because even, I mean, for a long time, even the Schumann resonance wasn't studied or understood. And people don't realize that everything is sound, is energy, is frequency, and it all has numbers and math.
Well, sound is just a vibration of air particles.
But it's still energy and movement of those particles.
Yes, everything is
to
energy
process.
and movement.
Right.
Movement is energy.
Even darkness in itself has name. It is something. It is not nothing.
It's something and nothing at the same time.
No, that is where you're
Just like everyone.
You're wanting to apply what you thought you knew still to this information. You can't combine both. The truth has to be the same. So you have to know the truth and remove what you've known. So it can't be nothing and something at the same time. That's not mathematically correct.
Okay.
You have to change that. So you have to change what you thought you knew and stop applying that to new knowledge. That's how
I
you
will
do
drop
system
2
update.
truth bombs right now. 2 of them. Amy Eskridge, she was killed for discovering that she...
Something and nothing at the same time, because everything you're mentioning has name and it's something. So there's nothing that's of non-substance there. It's all substance.
Amy Eskridge and many other scientists have been killed because they discovered something that some people don't want us to know. And if you take what Bob Lazar is saying and reverse it, like literally reverse it, you'll get closer to the truth.
Those poor scientists, right? So cheap.
And Nikola Tesla, his wires, his woundings, they were 1/4 of the exact Hertzian wave. So he was trying to maximize longitudinal dielectric current.
If you want free energy, I'm going to tell you how to do it now instead of all this babbling on like Gentiles. Let's go ahead and just tell you how. I've already told you about the Merkaba. That's what you do. Now, if you want a self-sustaining Merkaba, you need a device that does this. It just needs a crank. It needs a one start action. You just need to start it by a push. And the power, once it actually is resonating and you have the physical Merkaba sitting in the sounding bowl with the water and you on a pendulum so it can freely move and accept the energy, it takes a second for it all to work and synchronize. So once it's starting to move and move at the exact same speed of the resonance of the sounding bowl, then power is applied. It's brought from spiritual power to manifestation in 3D form. And so from there, you need an apparatus to take the energy out to power whatever you want. So that's what you do. It just needs a crank, which is like, it could just be a manual push of doing the sounding bowl. And then it has to have a mechanism that automatically is used that takes the power to it to continue its sustainability so it never stops. And then you have a perfect Merkaba free energy. And you need to find a way, since you know electricity, to harness its power with wires or whatever you want to use to our modern technologies to power it. So there you go. You have the information, and now you just need to do it. It's actually not hard. I could sit here and do it in probably 2 hours. I just need to go to a store.
Well, I said at least one thing.
You helped. You got it here. It's all part of the process.
Well, I have actually built these devices. I build devices every day. I put up
So as
all of
an
this
electrician,
machinery.
do you have any disagreements of what I just said?
Well, there's one thing. It's
a sounding bowl with your manual hand. It creates energy right there, and that's you can't see the Merkaba, but if you have water in it, you can see the resonation in the water, because the water moves in unison with the sound. The sound is what's giving us an inclination, or sorry, the vibrations. It's not a sound that we can hear, but it's a sound. We can't hear it. Merkaba is also a form of light, a spiritual light that we can't see. If we can bring its material manifestation to work in unison, and you have electricity, boom, you brought its power to mirror. There's your light. So it's also got its light, its sound, its vibration. It's a working power source. So you once you're doing this is all it needs to make the power, just the friction and the movement, and that's what starts everything. As long as you have all the correct apparatuses, the bowl, the water, the pendulum, the crank to make it sustainable, and the connection to it to make sure that whatever the pendulum is, that's the pendulum. That's the only thing that can be connected, because it has to be a free moving device. It can't be moving with anything that has resistance to it. So whatever it connects to has to be connected from the top, or how you facet it to its. And I'm pretty sure once you get it spinning in its pure form, you don't even need the apparatus touching it. Then that's where Tesla and his science comes into this, where free energy moves through the air. And we need to make a Tesla coil so it can receive the energy, use your apparatus of wires and whatever to power a house. So you can do this all by yourself, but you just need a large sounding bowl, and you need to experiment with it, because you have to get the correct size of the Merkaba. So you need to make multiple of those devices and make sure it is spinning at the correct frequency and the correct size of the spiritual embodiment of the Merkaba. That's how your soul, like ours, how we're manifesting and moving our soul, the spiritual embodiment is with the flesh, and that's how we're moving and we're alive. Without the soul, we're died. We're not here. Same thing with the Merkaba. It needs a physical embodiment. It can exist, but it can't power anything without its physical embodiment.
Well, Tesla's setup was very precise in all of his measurements.
Without a physical embodiment.
Yeah, he needed power to harness this power. But it's termed over unity nowadays, free energy, because you're getting more than you're putting in. And I mean, you have to do something to harness this energy. You need power to get power. Nonetheless,
you already have the power. Our soul is the crank. Our soul and physical body is the crank. We already have the power. We use our power to ignite the power with the sounding bowl, and its automatic kick-in mechanism that self-sustains by using its own power to keep driving the thing that resonates around the sounding bowl to create the resonance. And so as long as it doesn't stop and there's nothing blocking it, it doesn't stop. Once the automatic thing kicks in, there's no kill man switch to it. It doesn't stop.
Is this what Joe Felz discovered?
I don't know. I can tell you I did. And I'm sharing it with you.
He did have a video that he had posted about, he was starting to teach classes about free energy and the
one
physics.
person perceived it doesn't mean they're the only persons who perceived it. It's written in books. Just because one person discovered it doesn't mean they invented it. Multiple people can perceive it. That's why Jesus came here and he perceived the same thing. No one discovered anything before Jesus. Like it said in this book, there was only one person to take all of this information and execute it correctly, and that one man was Jesus Christ. And he tried to teach us.
Let me get this right. You guys believe in Jesus?
Every religion across the world does. Yeah, Jews, Muslims, Christians, the agnostics, the Freemasons. They all acknowledge the existence that Jesus Christ actually existed. He was a real person. So what do you mean you don't believe Jesus Christ existed with all the proof?
No.
That's part of the problem.
I
There was
will
a
tell you
person.
why.
You don't have to believe that anyone ever existed, but just hear and knowing that someone knew all this information and tried to tell us before. Stop worrying about the name.
Well,
Someone tried to tell us and it would use this and did it before, and there's so much documentation of it.
But do you guys know where that information came from? There is proof in the Bible, actually. John had a vision. He saw 4 beasts.
Yes, because it even says that if there was no mouths and no bodies around, the rocks would rise up and say my name.
Well, Mesopotamia, Indus Valley, Egypt, civilization. Those are the 3 places that the information was taken from.
Well, I can tell you, Jesus wasn't a woman, as much as you might want to believe that was possible.
I don't believe Jesus ever existed.
What proof do you have that denounces that? What gives you concrete evidence that says this is impossible?
Well, first of all, if you know all of the places that are mentioned in the Bible and you can go to those places, okay, that's one. And the second is he
absolutely. Yeah. I have my ex-husband is from those places. His name is Ariel Amram, and he is from Tel Aviv. So
one thing that Jesus was supposed to do was he talked to someone.
Bring up other points I'm trying to disprove. Before you go on to another argument, you still believe what you originally said. You can go to these places and you can just know that he didn't exist. What does going to a place? If you went to a place, how do you know it existed there 6,000 years ago when you did it when you weren't there? How do you know what did or didn't existed? You're already making it. You can't even imagine the possibilities. You closed your mind off to any possibility. You just don't want to. You choose not to believe, even without proof of physical, like a physical reason to actually believe it. You just willfully believe it because that's what you choose to believe.
Well, the first part is that many people wrote the Bible, and only one guy or woman figured out the truth and wrote
You
in the
acknowledge
Bible.
that one person. So do you think that one person lied to you about everything? So you acknowledge stories of the Bible were real, and you're drawing them from reference, and you take heed in what that's mentioned in the Bible.
It's the parables.
Name, but you won't. The person who is named, you think didn't exist, but you think the person who wasn't named exists. The author.
I don't want to argue. I just want to say a few things.
I'm trying to get to the bottom of
okay, I will tell you guys something.
Ignorance.
Well, listen. Guys, you have what?
You can agree that there was a possibility that there was a man named Jesus Christ with everything that's going on right now and the whole world knows about his name. You don't think that it's possible?
No.
All right. So you're not having a productive conversation. You just proved to us you have a closed mind. So moving on. If anybody else wants to come up, we have 2 other people requesting up. GMG, I know you've been in the comments. You wanted to say something. I know sometimes it doesn't. If you want to come back up, come back. Oh shoot! It worked. Come back up. Come back up. I'll invite you. Here we go. My bad. I thought if I shut it out, how do you request back up? It would work, but it worked.
If you want to do the rest of the story, I can do that. But if not, I'll hop down so somebody else can hop up to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, no, it actually it helped us get to a point because like even it brings up a great point. The professor was having a guided conversation in the way he perceived things, and there were still
Mhm.
an elements of what he didn't even check. And that's why we share. You don't just give information to somebody that only you perceive. You share it with scientists so it can be tested.
So to finish, the story's
Hey, hold
almost
on one
over,
second.
but
That's not what we were on to. Gamgee has been in the comments trying to say something, and that's why I
okay.
brought him up here.
Yeah, hey
Gamgee,
guys, I'm
what's
here.
you have something going on
Yeah,
in the
I've been
background?
around. I've heard you talking
Hold on.
about.
You have something
Yeah,
going on in the background.
I've been here. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. You have something. You have a background noise. It's like woo 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 woo. Can you remove that before you unmute? Yeah. Look at the what's that noise? So if you can remove that and then unmute yourself, because that is just, I mean, outside distractions like that, like woo, that will bring the energies down to where we can't understand what we're talking about. All right, so go ahead, Maverick. Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine, honey. No
I'm
worries.
so sorry.
I know everybody's kind
I'm
of
sure
all
it
over the
wasn't
place, and
point
everybody
blank.
wants their opinion, and everybody
Right.
and I feel like a lot are just missing the central message and the central core of the basis of the discussion. And that's, you're not trying to be combative, you're
Yeah.
not trying to argue, you're trying to have a constructive conversation. To Neil deGrasse Tyson said when he was asked if we lived in a simulation was, well, show me the proof that it doesn't. And I think that standard should apply to a lot of things in life. Is, well, you think that, show me, tell me why you believe that, or tell me why, show me that it doesn't exist, or that you, why you believe that. So, okay.
That's why we need to hear where your foundation of belief comes from. So that's how you know. That's how you learn the demons of what Jesus would call it inside somebody. And so the person was even willing to meet us halfway with a lot of it. I myself shut it down because right now the demons can also, incite other things and doubt in other people. It spreads. It's a disease. So that's why if it's not working, and some of it worked, but some of it's not, you won't even acknowledge that Jesus was a possibility. If you think that anything's impossible, nothing's gonna work for you.
Exactly. I agree with that. Okay, let's see where. Trying to find my spot here.
Oh, you're good. While you do, I'm going to say, and that's why the book was saying, not all people in their current state of mind can perceive this information. It doesn't mean that they will forever be that way, but just right now in their current state, there's going to be some people that just don't understand. Go ahead.
Okay, so we'll start back with, you're working on the premise of duality, the student explains. You argue that there is life and there's death, a good God and a bad God. You are viewing the concept of God as something finite, something we can measure. So our science cannot even explain a thought. It uses electricity and magnetism, but has never been seen, much less fully understood, either one. To view death as the opposite of life is to be ignorant of the fact that death cannot exist as a substantive thing. Death is not the opposite of life, just the absence of it. Now tell me, Professor, do you teach your students that they evolved from a monkey? If you are referring to the natural evolutionary process, young man, yes, of course I do. Have you ever observed evolution with your own eyes, sir? The professor begins to shake his head, still smiling, as he realizes where the argument is going. A very good semester indeed. Since no one has ever observed the process of evolution at work, and cannot even prove that this process is an ongoing endeavor, are you not teaching your opinion, sir? Are you now not a scientist, but a preacher? The class is in an uproar. The student remains silent until the commotion has subsided. To continue the point you were making earlier to the other student, let me give you an example of what I mean. The student looks around the room. Is there anyone in the class who has ever seen the professor's brain? The class breaks out into laughter. Is there anyone here who has ever heard the professor's brain, felt the professor's brain, touched or smelt the professor's brain? No one appears to have done so. So according to the established rules of empirical of the empirical, stable, demonstrable protocol, science says that you have no brain, with all due respect, sir. So if science says you have no brain, how can we trust your lectures, sir? Now the room is silent. The professor just stares at the student, his face unreadable. Finally, after what seems like an eternity, the old man answers, I guess you'll have to take them on faith. Now you accept that there is faith. And in fact, faith exists with life, the student continues. Now, sir, is there such a thing as evil? Now, uncertain, the professor responds, of course there is. We see it every day. It is in the daily example of man's inhumanity to man. It is in the multitude of crime and violence everywhere in the world. These manifestations are nothing but evil. To this, the student replied, evil does not exist, sir, or at least it does not exist unto itself. Evil is simply the absence of God. It is just the darkness and cold, a word that man has created to describe the absence of God.
That's
God
not
did not.
true. Evil is absolutely not an absence. It is something. This is why we can't just take. There's a lot of professors, like, it's political. What you're reading is very political. It's biased. So it's not being drawn from real science and mathematics, because if it was, the professor. So there's a lot here. So saying that like evil is nothing, that's not true. What is misery? Misery is something. Fear is something. Guilt is something. It's not nothing. It's not the absence. It is still something, and it's the opposite. It's not absence. It's opposite. So there's, in math, we have plus and we have minus. They're the opposites, positive and negative. Just that's not true. The professor is like trying to, and the student, he's hammering in a political perspective like a preacher. So, and that's what the devil does. He tries to get through people to misinterpret misinformation, and the people in the comments can even see it. They're hearing it, and it's like, I can explain it to you. There's plus and there's minus. Just because there's plus and minus doesn't mean one is something and one is nothing. No, there's positive and negative. There's a positive charge and a negative charge. When you have a negative charge lightning and a strike, is that not a strike?
No, correct, but there would be
there's no but. There is no but. There's no but. Negative and evil is still something. It's not the absence of God. It's actually still the presence of something other than God.
Well, that's what he said, that man does not have God's love present in his heart.
What he said is that it's the absence. It's that it's not that it's something. It's that it's nothing, and it's the absence of God. It's not, and it's not that it's not nothing. Go ahead and reread those statements.
So, it's like darkness. It's like cold. A word that man has.
No, reread it. No, don't interpret it. Read what he said.
No, that's that's the statement. But I'll start at the beginning again. So, to the student replied, "Evil does not exist, sir, or at least it does not exist unto itself. Evil is simply the absence of God."
That's not what it is. That's not true.
Well, that he later on it says
the absence of God. It's actually the embodiment of something that is something else. It's not God. So that person who is telling the student this isn't understanding that.
Well, it says evil is the result of what happens when man does not have God's love present in his heart.
That doesn't mean it's not nothing. It just said that it was nothing.
Right. No, I agree with that.
But for the misery is still something. Torment is something.
Absolutely.
So,
but it's emotions, it's energy in motion.
Agree, at this point, what you're reading from is not, it's biased. It's not factually true.
It was an Albert Einstein story of...
And it's still just not factually true. Do you also understand? Just not factually true.
Well, nothing
you can say that someone said it, but you can also use mathematics to disprove anything. Just because one person said it doesn't mean they can't be wrong.
I just thought it made some good points in there.
If someone did something, the power's within you. You're able to access the same information and analyze and see what's wrong with it. The power's within you, not through Albert Einstein.
No, 100%. I agree with that. I just thought it had some good points in there for discussion to bring up some of the stuff that you had been talking about.
Yes, ma'am. Of course, but it also led us to hear that you can't listen to just because someone gives them the title of professor. It doesn't mean that they're above knowledge. That's what this book tells you. Just you have to be careful of those who use knowledge as they know more, as they're above others. I'm just telling you, there's a universal language, there's a way to use it. It's mathematics, and I'm giving it to you. You have the option to use it or you don't. You know.
No, I believe that fully, 100%. The professor's education, it's all a tool that's used to navigate and used to, depending on what road you go down, for control.
Yeah. And I know we look at these books and we're looking for answers. And of course, when we find something that just seems correct, you still have to use that. You have a tool. You have a tool now. You have a problem solving tool to like correct and make sure that you know what to be true and what's not. It's mathematics. It's the building blocks to all science.
Absolutely. No, I agree 100%.
And how do we use mathematics to work backwards? We use algebra, and we solve to find x. We use what we have to find out what we don't know, and that's how we know it's mathematically possible through written numbers, that you can find out what you don't know without evidence through algebra.
Right. And how do you not know what you don't know
Algebra is
until you
sacred.
figure out
It's
you
not-
don't
it's
know
not
it?
us that came up with algebra. Algebra was actually the name of someone's name who taught this to everyone else. However, like the algebraic equations and stuff like that, it's like you have a structure of everything they know to use it in a specific way, in the correct way. Because if you were to try to do plus before multiplication, you're going to get the wrong answer. It's set up correctly in the right way. Like, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. There's a way that you have that math was perceived, and it had to be in correct orders, or else you didn't get the right numbers. So algebra, you have to use it correctly, and so you have to know where to put the right place as well, and then problem solve through correctly. You start with what's in parentheses, like because there's a whole nother math equation in the parentheses. You start with there first. You get the total of that, and then you continue on to multiplication and exponents, which is and then you also have the multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. You have to follow that order of operations. And
Right.
so,
And that will lead you. You also lead you into the discussion of sacred geometry.
We have proof to what we learned in school that you don't need the proof to find out what you don't know. You use mathematics to find out what you don't know. That is clairvoyancy.
Yep. No, I agree. But continue on your mission, my dear. That was all I wanted to share. I'm going to hop down.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for coming up and sharing that, because it helped us bring up a lot of, it was a great example that you have to like Joe found a book that was actually trying to tell us in an unbiased way about the natural workings of energy. And so, again, I'm going to start down here we're almost at the end of chapter 4, and we're about to get to chapter 5, which is hypnotism and the law of attraction. And so once you learn that, you'll be able to use that to attract what you're intending to attract. So let's go through the end of chapter 4. The Bible has with truth been called the Holy Scriptures, for it contains the knowledge of that which is holy, agreeing as it does with unchangeable laws and The Bible has with truth been called the Holy Scriptures, for it contains the knowledge of that which is holy, agreeing as it does with unchangeable laws and combining and interviewing deeds and laws, words and actions. It shows the true connection of man with the Almighty. It has the most intimate connection with the profoundest truths of the intellect and the senses. It speaks of all the origin of the universe and laws according to which all things were created, of the history of man before and after the deluge, of his future destiny and the means of attaining to it, of the living invisible agents which God employs towards the great work of salvation, and lastly, of all beings, the Savior, who combined in his person all divine powers and actions, whilst those who had gone before him were but the representatives of single powers and perfections. Powers and perfections, not imperfections. It shows to fallen man the light and radiant goal of his life, and prescribes all the various actions of purification and regeneration. It tells you what to do. You shouldn't seek to be for salvation, for something to take care of all the things for you. You need to work on it yourself, and there's no better time than now. But it's basically a summary of that. The Holy Bible prescribes all the various actions of purification and regeneration that you need to move on to the next place. The Bible contains, so as I was saying, the God code, to make yourself divine and perfect, you have to fix all your error codes. And the Holy Bible prescribes all various actions of purification and regeneration. So until you make it until the next place, you're able to purify and regenerate until the time comes that you need to do it, the next step, which would be a perfect death. The Bible contains the light which shines through all the clouds of life. It is the foundation of all human actions, the guiding star of all of the earthly to the eternity. It is the foundation of all human actions, the guiding star of the earthly to the eternity, of material to divine things, the means and end of knowledge. The Bible is the first of the three great lights which guide and rule our faith. The Bible is also of greater weight to our subject than all other records. And I shall therefore quote some of the passages which have reference to the principles as well as the practice of magnetism and its action upon the mind, and especially as regards the healing of the sick according to biblical precepts. Chapter 4, Hypnotism and the Law of Attraction. This law of mind, of magnetic attraction and influence, is manifest in all organized forms of life, becoming more and more active and powerful in effects according to the brain development of the organism and each its highest potency in man. The manifestation of this law in forms of animal life below man is a matter of observation. A good illustration is given in the biblical account of Jacob's handling of the flocks in his charge while in Laban's service. We see from this that even the sheep and goats could be influenced by the staves which Jacob laid before them in the water from which they drank. The fact that mothers influence their children from that which they see has been disputed, notwithstanding that its truth has been demonstrated in all ages and is as deeply founded in the nature of mutual existence as the children may inherit the bodily and mental peculiarities of their parents. That Jacob's sheep were influenced by the peeled wands which he laid with so much art in the water from which they drank has a deep meaning. Jacob either did this from experience or some vision or dream taught it to him. And in fact, we find Genesis. So I'm gonna stop there. Jacob either did this from experience or some vision or dream taught it to him. So here's something that the author didn't have physical proof of, but gave the how it could be done and perceived how it was possible for Jacob to receive these messages. And it says from experience, vision, or dream taught it to him. So that means it can be done to you. As we were learning in a couple chapters ago about dreams and the true magic and how it influences us, that's where we can our soul manifests in another way through respiration. Our respiration brings dreams, as in when we're awake. The difference between our sleep and awake method is when we're actually, the breath of life comes into us and we respirate as we awake. It's the spirit of, it's something about God, the spirit of whatever, your godly manifestation of your allowance, the laws that allows you to wake up, that's the difference. When you're sleeping, you have a dim amount of consciousness. You have a dim light while your mind is expanded. However, when you wake up, the difference is in your breath. It's your breath, your respiration. Your respiration when you sleep is what brings dream. Your respiration in your first wake is what gives you back your soul back into your body. That's what it was. And in fact, we find Genesis 31:10, and it came to pass at the time the cattle conceived, and I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream, and beheld the lambs which leaped upon the cattle were ringed, streaked, speckled, and grizzled, with the water in which, as it were, they reflected themselves, and the wands they drank in the image which impressed a new form upon their young, and thereby satisfied the imagination as well as the body. The working of this principle or law of mental action and magnetic influence in its effect on the human being can be observed by anyone as manifested in the wonderful parental influence of the mother over her child, which resulted, unhappily in some case, in birthmarks and crippling of the child. It is a matter that he So when you say what happened, like why does my kid have autism? Why does my kid get cancer? It just explained it to you. It is a matter that he practiced, and you blame God and all these things. It's actually magnetism in the way that the world works, and the error codes and the mathematics and the algebra that we're not utilizing to fix those codes. It is a matter that has been practically demonstrated that the mother can, to a great extent, mold the character and disposition of the child before birth. Not only this, but more. She can determine the genius of the child, or in other words, direct the aptitude of the child to music, painting, mechanics, or whatever branch of life's industry and achievement she persistently fixes her thought upon during the period of her pregnancy. We have not space. Of course, as mothers, you're also a creator. Of course, how could you, if you're manifesting, how could you not control your own manifestation? If you can control your body and how it works, you can control how you manifest your creation. And that makes perfect sense. We have not space enough here to enter into fully and to defend the natural theory by which is explained the manner in which spiritual impressions are even more easily propagated than is generally supposed possible in the matter-of-fact intangible world. We will, however, glance briefly over the subject and attempt to make clear beyond reasonable question the fact that magnetism in its various forms and phases is attracting power throughout life. It is the law which governs the process of natural selection and earlier periods of the Earth's development, evolving constantly higher and higher forms of life from lower. And since the perfection of man as a physical organism, it has manifested itself. 3D manifestation. It has manifested itself in a higher and broader, constantly ascending planes or thought and consequent civilization. We can not say definitely. So, see, numerous. See, look at you. Look at how negative you are. You're still here, obsessed. You have to go do the work on yourself. If you're not hearing the words we say and it's bothering you, you should ask, why is it invoking myself to bully others? That's the demons that Jesus was trying to talk to you about. It shouldn't bother you to hear this information. You should be able to scroll on, but you're still here, you're obsessed, and I'm not going to block you. But this is proof that you cannot move on because Satan has controlled you. So you're still going to be here, but you're muted. You can't just be spreading, like it says, words. All words have power and magnetism to how they were said and the intent behind the words. So you are spreading very horrible negativity, and I'm going to change it now with saying, I love you, and I hope that you do find Christ, and that, when you are on the other side, you say, oh my gosh, you guys, you planted the seed in me and it bare fruit, and you give gratitude to the Creator. We cannot say definitely what magnetism, this attracting power or law of attraction is, but we know as the facts, ancient and modern, collaborated in this work show, that the nearer man approaches the divine in love, wisdom, and use, the greater is his magnetic and attracting power. It is interesting at this juncture in considering the manifestation of this law of magnetic attraction. Sorry. I know that's going to be distracting for mispronunciation. So it is interesting at this juncture in considering the manifestation of this law of magnetic attraction in the realm of thought to note briefly the views held by the deepest thinkers regarding the power of thought and its evolution through past centuries. Advanced students in the science of mind affirm that thought is an actual living force in nature, that its physical manifestations in the minds of human beings and in the brains and nervous system of the lower forms organized life are but the strivings of the universal will for expression. No attempt will here be made to treat a subject of such vast import in its philosophic bearings. I shall not venture to sound the metaphysical depths of the real relations that exist between mind and matter, nor shall I express my decided opinion regarding the truth of this theory of thought. That's how you know the author is not being biased like the other person who was just in that other book that was being referenced, I'll read again. Nor shall I express any decided opinion regarding the truth of this theory of thought. A few suggestions in favor of acceptance, however, may not come amiss. So that is where I'm doing. I'm not forcing it down your throat, and then I agree with this person, because you have to also understand that not everyone's going to perceive this information. Not everyone's able to understand it, and sometimes it pisses people off. So that's why and when you have to look for these things, this is how you know who you can trust, because there's biased opinions, and like political, and then there's unbiased. And this person is telling you, I'm not going to express my any decided opinion regarding the truth, but I will make a few suggestions here. I'll read it again so you know I'm not making this up. Nor shall I express any undecided opinion regarding the truth of this theory of thought. A few suggestions in favor of acceptance, however, may not come amiss. He's saying he's going to still make some suggestions. It is often the case that in thinking of force, we confound it with its product, motion, and in this way we speak of light, heat, electricity, magnetism, chemical action, attraction, and gravitation as physical forces. We use the term law of gravity, but how little is really known by a man of this mighty force, whose power holds the visible universe in a piece. It is only in our present century that magnetism, the subtle, invisible, but all-powerful fluid, which permeates all matter, is studied with intelligence and its possibilities suspected. This hidden force, for anything known to the contrary, may be the vital element in every form of life. Its capabilities as an instrument for human development and dominion are even now at this age but little comprehended. A mysterious force exists in as we were just talking about, for human development and dominion are even now at this age, its capabilities as an instrument for human development and dominion are even now at this age, but little comprehended. So it's just saying that it's very little of what we're talking about, is very little of it will be comprehended by most minds. A mysterious force exists in the vibrations of the ether, called sound. And so again, a mysterious force exists in the vibrations of the ether being space, meaning space being a medium. Obviously, if darkness can exist in a space, somewhere there is a space, there is a medium, there is something that light can pass through if you were to turn a light on, because if you go into space and you turn a light on, light passes through it. So there's a medium for light to pass through. So space isn't nothing, it is still something. It's a medium for material, for magnetism to flow through. Without the medium, there would be no way to connect. So space is the thing that connects everything, and that's the ether, that what it's referencing the ether. So I'll say it again. I'll read it again. A mysterious force exists in the vibrations of the ether called sound, which we have satellites that produce sound, and that's how in space, that's how we're able to hear them with satellite dishes. They process the sound and put it into they plug in that information, and they turn it into digital information that they plug it into another language that we can then read and understand, because we can't understand that sound. So we have to have a machine that can do it for us. So the mysterious force exists in the vibrations of the ether called sound, radio waves, which science and invention have so far failed to utilize, but which no doubt in the near future will come under man's control for driving the wheels of industry. Which that's funny, because I have a friend who pioneered most of the satellites we have now today. Well, not most now with SpaceX, but she's also worked on that too. But she started Sirius Radio, and how she started with that. The reason why all the antennas, we used to have large satellite dishes. The reason why we're not, that's that person. Remember I was showing you guys Genesis, her daughter, and all that. Like I'm very like I'm close with them. Like I know this. I heard it from the horse's mouth. So how they came about with this is because she's just asking questions. It was like, why is this satellite dish as big as the whole house? Because we're receiving this teeny tiny signal from Jupiter of this thing that we shot out, and we're just seeing what happens to it, and we're trying to hear what it's telling us, and it takes a long time for it to get here, and the sound is so small, we have to have a large ear basically to hear it. We have to make a large ear to hear the sound. So a satellite dish is an ear. It hears sounds that we can't hear. So she's like, well, what if we make the sounds very powerful and loud? And he's like, well, and the NASA engineer she was speaking to was like, well, then you can make the thing as small as your hand. You can make the receiver, the ear as small as your hand. So she's like, and she had an epiphany. And so that's what she went to. She made a beeline to UCLA, studied communication law, satellite law, and combined it with an MBA, and then just started Pan Am Sat, Sirius Radio, GeoStar, the first GPS tracking for the military. So I understand, because I just know how all that started, and this guy is saying it's going to come, and it has come. This book was written in 1895. Satellites weren't invented until way later. A mysterious force exists in the vibrations of the ether called sound, which science and invention have so far failed to utilize. So this person knew about this. He knew that we could use this stuff, but which no doubt in the near future will come under man's control for driving the wheels of industry. That's what it says, for driving the wheels of industry. The old beliefs regarding the constitution of the human mind and its faculties have been shaken and in many cases destroyed by facts obtained from modern investigation and carefully tested experiment. The reality of thought transference, one mind impressing another, from a distance in space, seems established beyond a reasonable doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt. The wonderful developments in the line of hypnotism, animal magnetism, and somnambulism, that state before waking, that state of your before awake and asleep, that state of your mind before you fall asleep, and somnambulism, and the unquestioned results for health and the curse of disease, accomplished by the various schools of mental healing, all go far to prove the real existence of thought as a living force which can be strengthened in its power in a given direction by individual effort and concentration of purpose. So there's a hidden message here that I know a lot of people are not going to get, so I'm going to give it to you. Somnambulism is one of the key methods of why you can't manifest anything. You can't be in a heightened state and, transmute anything, any energy or any force. Like my state right now, I'm too much of an excited state trying to give you, if I wasn't, I couldn't communicate to you. However, you need to be in somnambulism because you're able to shut your brain down. Again, it went through this in the second chapter. When you shut your brain down, when you dim your light, your mind expands. And that's when you're able to perceive and attract and do all these things and manifest. And it's magnetism. You're able to utilize magnetism in a peculiar way when you are in a shamanic-like state. So if you're trying to do something, if you wanted to actually manifest something, and more, and like there's war going on around you, you literally have to sit and leave this world and put yourself in somnambulism. Just not let what's going on around you affect you, so that you can create a shield, so that you can do, whatever you need to do with that, however you want to use magnetism, the force, the universal force of how everything works, of how energy and everything runs through. Okay, so a magnet, like I was saying earlier, the powers that be know this because we're going to use algebra to figure this out. We don't need proof. We just need algebra. So we're going to take what we know. We're going to take a refrigerator magnet, stick it to the refrigerator, leave it for 2 years, it falls off. Why does it fall off? Because it lost its energy. It lost its charge. So if it lost its charge, it gained a charge. Who made the magnet? Because those same elements, those same metals are in that magnet, but it lost its charge. So that steel and iron is still there. So how did it gain its charge and how did it lose it? Well, it's because of transfer, energy transfers into other things through magnetism. So over time, that energy leaves and goes and does something else. So we don't know that yet. So we're going to use algebra to be like, okay, we don't know. We do know that a magnet loses its force. It loses its force. So it means it can be charged to work. So if a magnet falls, it probably can be charged to work again. But that's still another part of the algebraic equation. That's what would be in parentheses. Once you test that experiment, you put all that equation, you get that number, and then once you have a definite number, you go and you do the rest of the algebraic equation that's outside the parentheses, starting with anything that's exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So you have to use math to figure out what you don't know. That is clairvoyancy. That is what they told you. Oh, this is a clairvoyant. They gave you this there should be no feeling around that word. That's the reason why they gave it to you, is to excite you and make you close down. They give different words have meanings, but they change the meaning to words so they actually don't mean what they say. And if actually you're using words that you don't understand, and actually like it said, all words have magnetism. You're using a word now. As I'm speaking, there's sound coming out of my mouth, and it has to travel on magnetism. So every word holds weight. In a metaphorical way of explaining it. Someone wanted to come up here? So yeah, it's just crazy how he could see into the future. He proved that he's using mathematics to see into the future. He said that they were going to use sound before there were satellites. Guess what? They use sound, now they're satellites. He said this, wrote it down in a book. So there you go. It's mathematics. It's kind of another hidden message here. He told you something before it happened, and he was going to show you this by telling you it, and then you'll read it later after it happened, so you could see, okay, there's truth here. Yes, exactly. Exactly. But they tell us spells. Spells is another word of this thing it's math. It's actually math. It's all the variables of the equation of what you use to make the command work. So, like the spells, that's you don't you have to understand. A spell is like, it's a whole bunch of things. It's not just spoken. All a part of that word. You have to also have cloth. Like it has to be cotton, papyrus on your feet. You have to have washed in the morning and washed at night every day. This is how you come to purity. You have to be pure. So before you can actually do the spell casting, you can't cast someone up the spell that they wrote down. That's actually not how it works. And explain this as well. The poet knows that it comes from within. The power of the temple, it comes from within. You don't need to read a page to make that spell work. To make that command, that your will, your intent, to make that work. You do not need those tools. You already have tools. It's within you. The tool is within you. This is what you need to make it happen. And so, does anybody else want to come up? Have I lost anybody? Does anybody want me to start over, re-explain something? Yes, we'll talk later on that. May his soul rest in peace. No, you are doing amazing. Okay, perfect. The wonderful developments in the line of hypnotism, animal magnetism, and somnambulism. So that's what I was trying to tell you. So somnambulism is also a huge key to making any of this work. You have to be in the correct mental state. You can't be mad. You have to be in a purified state. And there's a way you get to purification. And this book has already said this. If you're just not getting here, we've already gone over that. So you have to read everything, and you have to just know it, apply it, and not forget any of the information. Use it all, plug it in, and that's how you'll know. So far, the one person, and I could even tell there's something in this author, he himself I can't remember what it was, but it was something that he didn't perceive correctly. And I came out and I showed it, and it's because you use math to use a tool. And you can't be wrong as long as you use the correct math. You can't, as long as you use the correct math to find the right answer. It's algebra. That's what they've made you think, that you had to be telepathic and clairvoyant. No, if you want to be telepathic, if the missing variable, the difference between clairvoyancy and telepathy when it comes to this, the code and algebra for X of what you're trying to find, what you don't know is what the other person is thinking. So you use everything else of what you know to figure out what the person's thinking. So that's how you figure out like telepathy. So it's actually, you can look at someone and figure out like what they're thinking, like, and like all the things and like how like they're acting and all that stuff. But it's also, you also have that discernment. It's clogged. You can have it clogged. You can also, you know, there's imperfections on the seer. That's why they call you, there's a seer and there's a poet. The seer is the one searching for magic to read the spells and do all this. The poet is the one who created it and knows that it doesn't come from actually writing and anything. It comes from at will, the intent, and at the time that it's actually coming through you. You can try to invoke that through a piece of paper and write down what you said, but that doesn't give all the other things and the tools that you use, whether like, you know, the sound and the ether that you play. That's why they make certain music while they're doing their seances and stuff like that. There's also you also, when you have a group of individuals, one that's not resonating the same brings the entire process down. If you're all doing a group project in like a seance or like whatever, you all have to have known the exact same information. So you take what you thought and you make sure each other has the same thought, and that you are executing and thinking the exact same thing at the exact same time, using the conductors. As this thing told you, your hands are your conductors. These are your will to move anything, and that can extend beyond you. And there's a way through it, through magnetism and through figuring out through algebra the code you don't know. When you try to execute the command and you try to influence something that's organic, like another person, and it doesn't work, it's because there's an error code in your algebraic equation. You're not doing the math correctly. Once you do the math correctly, execute the command, and then it works and it affects the thing that you're trying to affect. That's how you know you got it correct. That's how you check your work. It's math. Right. Let the man rest. Let the man rest. The powers that be right now will do what it needs to do. We're actually doing something else right now, so just let the man rest. We'll figure out what happened when the time and the calling of that opportunity arises. Right now, it's not arising. So I've already did what I needed to do. I don't need to push the force like that. And that's when I become even more wrong. So I don't want to do that, and I don't want to spread the wrong message. And so, yeah. To state that's why when next time I make any more TikTok posts, it's not going to be just my face and just written words. You're going to hear what I say. I'm going to say it and I'm going to explain it so that people can hear it and, you know, get my energy from that way, not from like, you know, they have to guess and come up with conspiracy theories and, you know, try to figure out what my intent is. I'd rather just tell you. And like, you know, I don't want you to like actually physically go after and attack his girlfriend or nothing like that. You need to ask questions. Joe is a truth seer or truth seeker on a journey of sharing and digging up secrets. Right now, one of those secrets is his passing. So it just seems hypocritical to be a truth seeker and then ignore that area and not seek that truth. So I understand your passion behind it, and we will get to that. But right now, we have other things we can do. And as you know, we're just going to do one thing at a time. To state the theory, and we have to do it together. We're stronger together. This is how we can work, and we have to do it through purity and the right way. And I have to readdress myself and how I come across and because my words hold weight now. And so I want to make sure I'm not, I definitely don't want her hurt. I don't want any more pain. We want to come out of this. And we just want to make sure that Joe is at peace. Okay. And then knowing that his work is not finished. Because if you read we're still going to pioneer the hardest book, everything that we possibly can in this life to make it work. The introduction of this book told us the only reason we have the information that I'm reading to right now is because it was a collaborated effort between friends and people in like a very hard time to get this information out. So it took a collaborated effort to get this book even out. And it wasn't, and they're trying to tell you this book yourself, you're going to see it as a miracle, but that's because people don't understand what actually is miraculous. You're able to do these things without actual God intervening. You have free will. You have the choice to go search. If you don't, that's another choice. So we have the choice to do great things, and we have the choice to not. You miss all the shots you don't take. So let's start shooting those shots. I quote from one of its teachers: the brain being a pulsating center, its thoughts as they go out in waves have to other brains a tangible representation. So the way he said it and worded it, there's also typos. There's, you know, Bad Grammar, it's an old book, and it's a real book. So give me a second to decipher. I quote from one of its teachers, the brain being a pulsating center, its thoughts, as they go out in waves, have to other brains a tangible representation. The psychic ether pulsating with innumerable waves may be regarded as a universal thought atmosphere, and the sensitive brain is able to gather from its thoughts and ideas which its pulsation express. We may supplement this theory by a belief in a higher atmosphere of thought pulsation that exists on the mortal plane. We may well believe that there are thought waves of supreme wisdom and knowledge which reach the brains of exceptional human beings alone. Which reach the brains of exceptional human beings alone. Brains that are peculiarly, the muscles in my mouth are getting tired. Peculiarly, I still can't see. I've been saying it. They put the same words all through here and how they describe things. Brains that are peculiarly sensitive to impulses from the upper spheres. This highest endowment, the highest endowment vouchsafed to man on earth is called the genius of intuition, and the few great souls that have possessed this mysterious gift are rightly named seers. The highest endowment he's so like, he describes, he already told us what seers were, and then he says it again, and it says, why do you re-describe it again in a different way? That doesn't make any sense. You told us the difference between poets and seers in 2 chapters ago. Then the highest endowment vouchsafed to a man on earth is called the genius of intuition, and the few great souls that have possessed mysterious gifts are rightly named seers. He's so that doesn't make any sense. I'm so sorry. So hold on, let me apply this, and I have to use mathematics to find, because he gave 2 different descriptions for seers. Okay, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And this is why it's so, you have to think. No, he didn't. He actually just gave him a further description of seers. Rather, he gave the difference, but now he's giving more of what they're capable of. So the poets can do more than seers, but this doesn't mean that seers are powerless. So listen to this again. The highest endowment vouchsafed to man on earth is called the genius of intuition, and the few great souls that have possessed this mysterious gift are rightly named seers. So the genius of intuition, they have that so they can see. Poets can also create through thought. They are capable of original thought. They have appeared at long intervals through the ages, and that they're inspired pointing. So the poets are the people who are capable of actual spell casting, not seers. They are able to perceive and have intuition and thoughts, and those are their mysterious gift is intuition. They have appeared at long intervals through the ages, and if their inspired pointings toward the right paths of evolutionary development had been obeyed, organized society would not present the unhappy conditions of today. Life has always been a sad puzzle to man, and his animal impulses of selfish greed have always formed themselves in warring opposition to the teachings presented by these spiritual specialists. Acknowledge the fact, as we must, that space and time are but mortal conceptions. We may, with true philosophy, mourn the mistakes of man in the past, but at the same time, we may draw the correct deductions from the course of human evolutionary progress ever upward, and cherish the bright hopes for his future, not only on earth, but to spiritual realms beyond the mortal ken. So instead of, of mortal conceptions, we may, with true philosophy, mourn the mistakes of man in the past, but at the same time, we may draw correct deductions from the course of human evolution progress ever upward, and cherish the highest hopes for his future. So your neighbor, it's what it's talking about. you have the ability within you, and what you should do is transmute love, is what it's saying, and cherish the brightest hopes for his future, not only on earth, but to spiritual realms beyond the mortal ken. You should wish that for everybody. Going for farther, it is perhaps, that's all part of becoming pure. Going farther, it is perhaps well here to offer one word of warning. Granting the truth of this theory of thought, it must, of course, be essential for man's welfare, for his progress upward, that the aggregate thought of the most advanced races be sound and true to the leadings of the higher mind. Evil, disordinate thought can become unhappy, and in many cases, more infectious than mental impulses toward truth and wisdom. Epidemics of baneful, diseased thought have spread through the minds of whole communities at different periods of the world's history, showing the secret power of telepathic influence. We may then well fear the prevalence of ideas, for they have served in the past as serious hindrance to the power growth of righteous reform that have been planted from time to time in the minds of inspired leaders. So, like it said, thought have spread through the minds of whole communities at different periods of the world's history, showing the secret power of telepathic influence. It's proven telepathy is real. I mean, even everything is proven through math, as I'm explaining, but even this person sought another way of proving it. We may then well fear the prevalence of ideas. We may then well fear the prevalence of ideas. For then have served in the past as serious hindrance of the power of growth of righteous reform that have been planted from time to time in the minds of inspired leaders. Planted. With thoughts planted from time to time in the minds of inspired leaders. Inspired. Thought planted. Inspired. So leaders, meaning they're not the ones that are commanding themselves. They're not the ones leading. There's another force of leading through telepathy. Let us now take a brief glance at the development of a hopeful thought, which has existed sometimes in strength, sometimes in extreme weakness, since man first emerged from the savage state. As different stages in the advance of humanity toward what we call civilization, the individual man has cherished a noble thought of an ideal condition of social existence on this planet. He has dreamed of a future state of society in which justice, harmony shall rule, and true brotherhood be established. It is not my purpose to trace the development of this thought from the very beginning of its recorded history. In all epochs, and in every land after primitive equality disappeared. In all epochs and every land after primitive equality disappeared, aspirations for an ideal social formation are to be perceived in sensitive human minds, sometimes in the form of a protest against evil, sometimes against utopian dreams for social reconstruction. The prophets of Israel, while lifting a warning voice against antiquity, announced a good time coming. Job, that grand old poet, pessimist as he was in many ways, believed in justice and the right would at last prevail. 5 centuries before our Christian era, Gautama Buddha held the thought of the extreme wretchedness of existence and offered the saving doctrine of self-sacrifice as the only solution of the great problem. So Buddha held the thought of extreme wretchedness of existence and offered the saving doctrine of self-sacrifice as the only solution of the great problem. Instead of fixing it, Buddha wasn't worrying about fixing it, which is what it's saying. He was worried about, instead of the immediate fix would to be self-sacrifice. It's the only solution of the great problem, is what it says. Coming down to the classic period of philosophic speculation in Greece, we find Plato inspired to give to the world a high ideal in his Republic, which work had great influence in promoting later aspirations. We have but to look back a few hundred years to mark the guarded ascension of the whole of mankind to the higher levels of mind life. And we can but feel that what has been shall continue to be until humanity, the great giant trying to lift itself from the slime of earth, shall no longer present features of abhorrent ugliness, warring against his own numbers, demonically insane and suicidal, poisoning his atmosphere with the effluvium of hatred and evil thought and deed, but shall walk beneath heaven, a man of noblest proportions and form and of angelic countenance, his thoughts of love, his acts of mercy. I must omit any extended notice of that tremendous wave of thought which rose to such a height in the time of Voltaire, Paine, and Rousseau, and which broke in such a fury at the French Revolution. Of all the dreadful implements used by the occult powers controlling humanity, none has done more effective work from the amelioration of man's relation with man than his bloody, blind, furious overturn of society. By its means, the ruling classes throughout the civilized world awoke to the fact that serious disease lurked in the body politic of every existing government. Palliative remedies were more or less adopted, and there can be no doubt that organized human society received lasting benefits from the final results of horrible chaos. And that's the end of chapter 5. And now we're about to get into hypnotism, the key of occultism. So this is the end of chapter 5. The world approaches the verge of new dispensation. Brute rule. The rule of matter over mind is going. I have always used the word brute as a way to describe the way of our Western approach to medicine. Have you ever seen a hip replacement? That is very brute. This person is using the same word. The world approaches the verge of new dispensation. Brute rule. The rule of matter over mind is going. The race approaches the positive pole of its being, and undreamed of power awaits it. The power to conquer not only disease, but poverty and crime, and even in old age and death. It's a $9,000 book. It's called, it's from 1895. It is called Ancient Magic, Magnetism, and Psychic Forces by L.H. Anderson. And it is probably one of the most unbiased, informative books you could ever possibly read. Doesn't mean I have to answer the door. Nothing was illegal. Haven't done anything illegal. So you come knocking, I don't have to answer. When the devil comes knocking, you don't have to answer. You don't have to. Can I watch the first 4 chapters on here? You know what? As I go through reading this book, it would be... So can people start screen recording when I start reading? Not now, but when I start reading chapter 6, so that you can post it, clip it, get content off it, put yourself on it however you want to, and we're going to keep doing this every day. So you can push your own algorithm. Push your own algorithm this way, because this is how I'm going to help the community drive in and get their voices to be heard as well. As long as, you play off an algorithm and then you play off this algorithm and we do it in the correct way, that's how you're going to spread righteousness. So when all these things in the book are talking about purification, righteousness, how to understand magnetism, what it is, the universal laws and everything about it, and how to perceive it, because that's what's wrong, is no one's perceiving it correctly. So, yes. Okay, perfect. Then I'll just start reading now, because time is of the essence of all time. We're here now, and we should never be wasting our God-given energy when we have a task that we're willing to complete. So I'm going to do this now. Okay, hypnotism. Or I'll start over. 1 second. I'll let you guys start your screen record buttons. Hypnotism, the key to occultism, chapter 6. The connection between mysticism and mesmerism will seem naturally remote to the ordinary pathological student, but experiments in dual consciousness and the possibilities of suggestion and the transference of thought and in the production of profound artificial sleep appear after a careful study to be only the outer fringe of an ancient secret knowledge by which the sanctuary of the inmost man might be unlocked, and whereby the interior mystic might enter into the realities which transcend the superficial truths of the phenomenal world. We speak tentatively and hypothetically, but we base our statements upon investigations other than our own and upon authorities and occult science who are greater than ourselves. It is open to anyone who has the necessary qualifications of aspiration, patience, and energy to learn by his individual experience that mystic patient practice is not hallucination and that it is not fraud. Okay, sorry, you're gonna have to cut that out. I'm so sorry. I wanted to clarify to the people that are around me that like when I do start reading, if they do happen to like have to make a noise to stop me and interrupt me, so that when I am reading over things or whatever, that when you're screen recording it and it's to be posted, that there's not a whole bunch of distractions. Can you hear my fish tank pouring? Can you hear the water? Yes, you hear it? Damn it. I'm so sorry, you guys. Why has no one ever just been like, bitch, what is that water? Like, no one, I have not seen one comment. I've been doing this for 7 days in this spot. Okay, I'm gonna start chapter 6 over. This is crazy. You poor people. Y'all, I didn't know that. I'm sorry. Okay. Chapter 6, Hypnotism, the Key to Occultism. The connection between mysticism and mesmerism will seem naturally remote to the ordinary pathological student, but experiments in dual consciousness and the possibilities of suggestion and the transference of thought and in the production of profound artificial sleep appear after a careful study to be only the outer fringe of an ancient secret knowledge by which the sanctuary of the inmost man might be unlocked and whereby the interior mystic might enter into the realities which transcend the superficial truths of the phenomenal world. We speak tentatively and hypothetically, but we base our statements upon investigations other than our own and upon authorities in occult science who are greater than ourselves. So it's telling you we speak tentatively and hypothetically, but we base our own investigations upon others. We let others do the investigations, and we place that authority. We place that on the authorities, and that's in occult science, who are greater than ourselves. We're meant to see that force is greater than ourselves when we're actually. What did Jesus tell us? What are we? Equal. It is open to anyone who has the necessary qualifications of aspiration, patience, and energy to learn by his individual experience that mystic practice is not hallucination and that it is not fraud. Then he must compare what he has learned with the facts of pathological history and nature and artificial catalepsy. And if he can discriminate between disease, which has its seat in organic weakness and disruption of mind and body, between the plunging of an unprepared nature into a condition which is outside nature, and between the sanctified interposition of a pure mind, a purged will, and an exalted aspiration and purpose, he will be in a position to understand what is essentially identical and what is incidentally diverse in the mystic and magnetic trance. His practical acquaintance with psychology and hypnotism may then be applied to an appreciation of the claims of the mystics in respect of their ecstatic absorption. when he should bear in mind the reiterated statement which has been the keynote of this book. He will conclude that these things are not faith, that it is to say that that anyone who is vitally concerned in them should not stop short at the evidence and be content to believe. So just because you don't have material manifestation of evidence doesn't mean you shouldn't believe. We've told you how you find out what you don't know. You use algebra, mathematics, because algebra is the mathematics where we find out what we don't know. And that's how, clairvoyance can find out what they don't know, is just understanding it in either that way, or they just understood it like equivalently on a different language of understanding, but still been able to apply it. We are conscious that we have been unwillingly speaking in terms somewhat enigmatical, and it will be well, therefore, if avoiding all involved details, we can afford to the students a few lines of plain information on the end that was sought by the mystics through their profound process of introspection, how you view yourself, and transcendental hypnotism. Gosh damn. The way they just throw in all these tier 3 words, and they are so long, and then when they go over the page, they break up in the weirdest of parts. So it's really hard to see because they're so long. So self-hypnotizing for the suspension of self-correspondences and the manifestation of the interior light and life. There was neither secret nor mystery about it. It was always openly referred to, precisely defined and described. At the same time, the methods necessarily were of an arcane or at least recondite character, because they were concerned with the mystery of spiritual growth and the great alchemical reconstruction, which was been emphasized in one term of many heights and wonders, the new birth or regeneration. They don't simplify anything in this book for you. They use the hardest words that you can possibly imagine. So you have to, and they do that so they already have such run-on sentences explaining these things, so they still bunch it up by using words that have so much meaning within themselves, like psychoalchemical. Okay. If you want to decode what that means, you have to prefix, middle, suffix, break them all up, and there's multiple words put into one, and so it's on top of run-on sentence after run-on sentence. Here's what we read in a popular book of mysticisms, which circulated widely in France in the middle of this century. The union of God with the soul and the principle of all mystic life, but this union, the fullness and final consummation of which cannot be experienced till death, has been passed through eternity, has been achieved and can be accomplished on this earth in a more or less perfect manner, and the literature of entire mysticism has no other end than to unveil to us by a full and profound analysis of the different stages of evolution in the spirit of man, the diverse successive degrees of this divine union. Sorry, I said that in a weird dialect, because their punctuation, sometimes they don't put a period, start a sentence, you see 3 spaces, sometimes there's so sometimes the punctuation will confuse you, so I don't know how to, sometimes I get confused on how to produce my dialect. Again, it's a 130-year-old book. 7 distinct stages of the soul's ascent towards God have been recognized by mysticists, and they constitute what has been emblematically called the castle of the interior man. They represent the 7 absolute processes of psychic transfiguration. The first link in this arcane sequence is called the state of prayer, which from the pneumatic standpoint is the concentration of the